I'd like to begin by asking folks a question, and this can go to our folks of all ages. Who can remember or cite a story that was particularly meaningful for them and made a difference in their lives? Just shout it out and I'll repeat it if I need to.
Peter Pan.
And why?
I want to fly.
You want to fly. Peter Pan, because he wants to fly.
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast, because
it taught me to see the real essence of the person.
Taught you to see the essence of the person. Very good, yes.
The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of... Now, I know why this one's special.
Well,
let's share it with the others. The Wizard of Oz because...
Because the Scarecrow looks exactly like my dad before he died. He looks exactly like a young Ray Bolger. My dad died when he was 39. He looks exactly.
Because Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow, looked exactly like the father, she said. Jean.
The Little Red Hat.
And why the Little Red Hat?
I guess I had a strong sense of fairness and still in me from that story.
Very good. In fairness. Cheryl and Amy, and then we'll move on. Cheryl?
David and the Phoenix.
David and the Phoenix? New to me. What was the particular meaning of that one?
The Phoenix is able to go into the fire and be born in this story. So it just gives you the anticipation that we can all start our lives over again.
Starting lives over again. Very good. That's why Les Miserables is one of my favorites, because it's the theme of redemption in Les Mis. Amy.
The Little Prince.
The Little Prince, because
it also teaches you to see what's real in people, and to see with your heart and not with your...
To see with your heart, to see what's real. Very good. We have all these wonderful examples because today we're going to talk about a writer, a Unitarian, who this weekend is having a section of stained glass at Westminster Abbey in the Poets' Corner dedicated to her. It was dedicated yesterday, as a matter of fact. And her name is Elizabeth Gaskell. Now, she's probably not as familiar as some other Victorian writers. How many have ever heard of Elizabeth Gaskell? Yes, Jake has heard of Elizabeth Gaskell because we've been working on this skit.
This morning.
Yeah. Well, we have many Unitarian and Universalists who are engaged in the arts, and I'll share a few with them. Share a few with you. Poets: Carl Sandburg, May Sarton, William Carlos Williams, E.E. Cummings, all UUs. Novelists: Louisa May Alcott, probably one of our more famous ones. Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. Beatrix Potter. Ray Bradbury. Musicians: Edward Hamilton Sears. Now, how many go immediately to, he wrote It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, the most humanist Christmas song in the hymnal. Bella Bartok, for those who like classical, and Edvard Grieg, right? Unitarians. And then a more contemporary, Pete Seeger, has been a lifelong Unitarian. Actors: Michael Lerner, Christopher Reeve, PaulDmin. We're all self-identified as Unitarians. Artist: N.C. White, who I was not real familiar with by name, but you would recognize he was an illustrator. Many Saturday Evening Post covers and others, and so you would recognize his work. Why do we want to emphasize UU artists and writers and poets? For at least three reasons. First of all, we have no sacred texts. Truth is wherever we find it. And we heard from all these examples that there's as much meaning and teaching in works of fiction and works of art as in anything that is identified as a so-called sacred text. I often say it's a sacred text if it's sacred to you, if it's meaningful to you. But as a tradition, as a faith movement, we take truth where we find it. And the other point then with that is that we often find it in culture. We are both in this world and of this world. Historically, Unitarians and Universalists have been involved in society and culture. We don't separate that which is religious or sacred from that which is in the everyday world, because we can find that which is sacred to us everywhere. So we're engaged in culture, which is not to say that all culture is sacred, but it is to say that we can find it in the world that we live in. And finally, there are many ways to practice social justice. Because the writer that we're going to talk about today, Elizabeth Cranford, is in that Victorian era. She's in the same era as Charles Dickens. I'm going to say more about that. And she did similarly to him. She wrote novels that were critiques of society and were meaningful to the people of that time in advancing her Unitarian social justice values. So there are many, many ways to practice social justice. And we embrace the arts as a way of engaging in social justice. So it's not limited to carrying signs up and down the street. It's not limited to testifying at committees. It's not limited to letter writing. Anything that advances the cause of our social justice values is valued by us. And that includes our engagement with the arts. Lots of different ways to be engaged in this world and to live out our values. Now, a quick comment about Westminster Abbey, and then we're going to create for ourselves, rather, a stained glass window for Elizabeth Gaskell, and the children will help with that. But the Poets' Corner at Westminster Abbey, devoted to honoring writers and poets. The first person buried there was Chaucer. And it is the grave for many famous writers, including Shakespeare and Charles Dickens, was a Unitarian, of course. Others are honored with plaques and sections in the stained glass windows. Some of those other folks that are honored there are John Milton, T.S. Eliot, a Unitarian, Robert Burns, Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, and as of Saturday, the Unitarian novelist Elizabeth Gaskell.